Welcome to Byte-Sized Tech. Today, we're going to cut through a whole whirlwind of headlines to uncover the one big theme that connects them all, this intensifying power struggle between tech, big corporations, and governments. So here's our roadmap. We're going to go from a super high-stakes international phone call right down to the device that's probably in your pocket right now. Okay, let's dive in.
All right, so our story kicks off with the fate of TikTok literally hanging in the balance. And it all came down to one critical phone call between the leaders of the US and China.
I mean, things unfolded at a dizzying pace, right? It was creating all these headlines and a ton of uncertainty in the markets. So earlier in the week, it looked like negotiators had a deal framework. But then, just a day before the big call, President Trump gives this non-committal "we'll see," and suddenly it was clear this thing was far from over. And this is where it gets really interesting. Right after that call, two completely different stories emerge. China's state news agency puts out this super cautious statement, warning the U.S. to avoid undermining outcomes. But then the American readout, which just pops up on social media, sounds way more optimistic, talking about a productive call and even saying, "We appreciate the TikTok approval," making it sound like a done deal. So right away, you can see this was never going to be a simple sale, right? This was a super complex negotiation about control, about technology, and let's be real, about national pride. You had this powerful group of U.S. buyers, Oracle included, ready to go, but China was firm. They were not going to sell their star tech company outright. And the biggest sticking point, they insisted on keeping control of the algorithm. That's TikTok's secret sauce. And any deal had to come with a hefty price paid. And this one negotiation, it really hints at a much bigger story unfolding. Because this whole TikTok saga is not just about one app. It's really a flashpoint in a much larger geopolitical struggle for who's going to dominate technology. And to really get a handle on the stakes here, just listen to this quote from Marta Norton at Empower. She says, "AI is akin to the space race in terms of sovereign interest." Think about that. We're not just talking about economic growth anymore. We're talking about national power. Technology has become the main arena for global competition. So, what are the weapons in this new kind of conflict? Well, one of the big ones is something called export controls. Basically, these are rules the U.S. has been using to limit China's access to cutting-edge tech, especially those super advanced AI chips that companies like NVIDIA make. It's a direct move to try and slow down a competitor in a really critical field. So these are the new battlegrounds. You've got this race for AI supremacy, with Chinese firms like Huawei scrambling to catch up to NVIDIA. You've got this fight for control over the very algorithms that shape our digital lives. And all this jockeying for market access, it's creating a more divided global economy where political flare-ups can cause some serious shocks to the market. But this battle isn't just being fought overseas. The very same themes, government pressure and how corporations respond to it, are playing out right here, dramatically, inside the U.S. media landscape. At the center of a recent controversy is the FCC. Now, you might think they have all this power to police what's on TV, but according to FCC Commissioner Ana Gomez, that's not really the case. She's been very clear that the agency's authority is actually pretty limited. They can't just legally punish broadcasters for protected speech, like satire or news commentary. And this was her fiery reaction after Disney indefinitely suspended Jimmy Kimmel's show, which came right after he made some comments critical of Republicans. She didn't see it as a regulatory issue. For her, it was a company caving to political pressure, something she believes puts the First Amendment itself in danger. And she didn't stop there. She directly took on threats that had been made against broadcasters' licenses, stating flat out there is no basis for that kind of action. Revoking a license is an incredibly rare move, reserved for huge violations, not for jokes on a late-night talk show. So Commissioner Gomez argues the administration is using these levers of power to put the squeeze on media companies. Anytime a big company needs the FCC's approval for something, like a merger, that process can be used to get voluntary commitments. And she points to this really chilling example, the Paramount/Skydance deal, where Paramount actually agreed to install what she calls a truth arbiter to handle bias complaints. She sees that as a direct threat to the freedom of the press. Okay, so let's bring all of this massive geopolitical stuff down to something you can literally hold in your hand, the phone in your pocket. I mean, even the biggest product launch of the year, the new iPhone 17, can't escape all this drama. It's not just a tech story anymore. It's a story about global supply chains, international markets, and how political realities can mess with a huge product rollout. And this just shows how one little design choice can cause international friction. The fancy new iPhone 17 Pro models, people were lining up for them, but the new iPhone Air got delayed in China. And why? A surprisingly simple reason. It relies on eSIM technology, which just isn't widely used over there yet. It's a perfect example of how even a giant like Apple has to navigate the realities of a country that also happens to be its main manufacturing base. Okay, so we've talked about a TikTok deal, an FCC fight, and an iPhone launch. What in the world do these things have in common? Let's connect the dots.
Whether we're talking about negotiations in Beijing over a social media app that defines a generation, or political pressure being applied in Washington to a domestic broadcaster,
The consistent pattern here is that governments are using their political and regulatory power as a tool, as a weapon. Things like trade policy, license approvals, and export controls. These are the new levers of power, and they're being used to influence some of the biggest companies on the entire planet.
and the result is our new reality. Technology is the main stage for competition between nations and for political fights at home. The lines between government and corporation are getting blurrier, and big tech is stuck right in the middle of a high-stakes game where the rules are constantly changing. All of this forces us to ask a really fundamental question. As the lines between technology, commerce, and state power keep getting blurrier and blurrier, who really holds the power? Is it the platforms? Is it the politicians? Or is it us, the people? It's a question that today's events really force us to think about. And there are no easy answers. It's something we'll definitely be watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.